The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
This is Florida Man News, the worst headlines from the Sunshine State on the Florida Podcast Network. I'm your host, Joel Lounds. Coming up in this episode, Florida man gets busted trying a unique ride home, or maybe it wasn't so unique. Florida woman showers her sleeping husband with golden grossness. Florida man slaps a 7-Eleven store staffer with a sticky Slurpee, and Florida man molests the toilets to protest his arrest. Plus, Florida man trivia, and much, much more. Our lead story tonight. In a novel bit of nautical nastiness, a Florida woman opened the port hatch of her boat and proceeded to urinate on her husband, who was asleep on the bed below. According to police investigators, the 48-year-old Florida woman and her spouse got into a verbal altercation while on their cabin cruiser at sea near a small island about 10 miles northwest of Clearwater. Around 1 a.m. Sunday, cops say the 47-year-old victim was snoozing when the Florida woman opened the port hatch, which is located in the roof of the interior cabin bedroom. She then, quote, urinated on the victim, unquote, from above. After his golden shower, the Florida woman's husband subsequently exited the cabin area when she allegedly bit him on the stomach. The victim, cops reported, quote, had injuries that matched the story, unquote. When questioned by police, the Florida woman reportedly admitted to biting and urinating on the victim. The victim was reportedly pissed off for being pissed on. The Florida woman was arrested for domestic battery, a misdemeanor, and booked into the county jail at around 4:40 a.m. She was released from custody later that day on her own recognizance, though a judge ordered her to be outfitted with an alcohol monitor. When asked if she would be required to wear an adult diaper to prevent further incidents, the judge replied, "Depends." The Florida woman will be allowed contact with her husband, whom she lives with in a waterfront condominium, complete with a boat slip, on Tierra Verde, an island just south of St. Petersburg. In Slurpee slapper news, a Florida man was recently arrested and jailed after he allegedly doused a 7-Eleven employee with a Slurpee over a dispute over the drink's price, police said. The 40-year-old Florida man was arrested and charged with battery after an argument broke out with a 7-Eleven employee, and the Florida man hit a Slurpee out of the employee's hand, the document said. The video surveillance shows the victim grabbing the cup off the counter, the court documents show. The defendant is seen on camera handing the full cup of Slurpee drink towards the victim while in the victim's hand. According to the documents, after the Florida man hit the cup out of the employee's hand, the contents of the cup flew onto the victim's person, a police officer reported. Shortly after the incident, the Florida man left the store before police arrived. He returned to the store 2 weeks later, and the victim pointed the defendant out to law enforcement, the document said. The Florida man was arrested by Pinellas County Police and brought in for questioning. He told police he did recall a previous, quote, incident at 7-Eleven where he was being charged too much for a drink. The arrest document shows that during questioning, the Florida man said he did not remember hitting the drink out of the employee's hand. The arrest document does not note what flavor Slurpee was involved in the incident, but a customer named Alexi opined that cherry is the superior flavor and would therefore be a bigger problem if that was the flavor that was spilled. The Florida man is being held at Pinellas County Jail in lieu of a $2,500 bond, according to the documents. In potato masher news, a Florida man is behind bars after police say he assaulted his ex-roommate with a sack of potatoes after breaking into her apartment. According to St. Petersburg police, a 34-year-old St. Petersburg man entered the victim's apartment through a window on June 10th and proceeded to beat her with a potato sack, leaving her with visible injuries. The arrest affidavit did not explain how the tater invader was apprehended. The tuber trespasser is charged with burglary and is being held without bond. He was not charged with assault or vinegar. And in IED APB news, federal agents are taking over the investigation of a Florida man who was arrested after police found more than 24 pipe bombs near his home, including some that contained nails, screws, and metal pellets. Boynton Beach police said Thursday that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives is now the lead agency investigating the 34-year-old Florida man. He is facing 26 state felony counts of making, possessing, and placing a destructive device after his arrest Wednesday in Palm Beach County. The ATF did not immediately respond to a phone call seeking comment on why they have taken over the investigation. Florida Man News speculates that it has something to do with the explosives part of the agency's name. Boynton Beach police had originally said mistakenly that the FBI was taking over the investigation. Boynton Beach officers have been called to a dead-end street on Wednesday after reports of an explosion, investigators said in court records. Investigators found remnants of an exploded pipe bomb and several undetonated bombs along the roadway. They sealed off the area, and the Palm Beach County Sheriff's bomb squad disabled the devices. A neighbor told them a man named Greg, who lived nearby, makes bombs and sometimes detonates them in vacant lots. Officers also found a box in a trash bin with the Florida man's name on it and found several bombs and gunpowder. They say the Florida man soon approached officers and told them he was the reason they were there. Investigators say he told them he had been making bombs for years and had made some of the found devices for this past 4th of July. He said he never meant to hurt anyone, saying he put the screws, nails, and pellets in the bombs to remove tree stumps. He was being held Thursday at the Palm Beach County Jail on a $130,000 bond after an initial court appearance. The Palm Beach County Public Defender's Office had no immediate comment. And now it's time for our weekly Florida Man trivia question. Here's this week's question. The 2021-2022 citrus growing season was particularly hard on Florida's citrus industry, and Florida fell to second place in overall citrus production behind California for the very first time. Which of these citrus fruits did Florida still outgrow California in? A. Oranges, B. Tangerines, or C. Grapefruits? I'll have the answer after this message from our sponsor.
Flintstone Media has been the digital messaging bedrock of several brands and businesses, serving as a highly resourceful podcast production house and consultancy firm for over 6 years. Visit flintstonemedia.com for podcast samples. From show development and setup through recording and distribution, work with a leader in the industry and add a new podcast to your brand's content offerings. That's flintstonemedia.com.
And now the answer to the Florida Man trivia question. Once again, that question was, the 2021-2022 citrus growing season was particularly hard on Florida's citrus industry, and Florida fell to second place in overall citrus production behind California for the very first time. Which of these citrus fruits did Florida still outgrow California? A. Grapefruit, B. Oranges, or C. Tangerines? The answer is A. Grapefruit, and it wasn't by much. Florida grew 43% of all grapefruit in the U.S., and California was a close second at 39%. The remaining 18% was grown in Texas. If you'd like to sponsor Florida Man Trivia, go to floridapodcastnetwork.com/contact and send us a message today. In Starstruck Trucker news, a Florida woman screamed the names of celebrities while she was arrested after a deputy caught her driving 90 miles per hour in a 35-mile-per-hour zone in Marathon. According to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, the 38-year-old Florida woman from Plantation, Florida, was driving a Lexus SUV when a deputy saw her speeding down US 1 after midnight. The deputy turned his lights and siren on, but the Florida woman didn't stop, investigators said. She almost crashed after turning left onto Knights Key Boulevard and fishtailed when she turned onto Kyle Way. Eventually, the deputy boxed the Florida woman's car in and held her at gunpoint, according to deputies. Another deputy got to the scene and tried to help the first deputy in removing the Florida woman from the car. She resisted arrest and kept pulling away, screaming names of famous actors, deputies said. Florida Man News has obtained a recording of this part of the incident.
Nicole Kidman, Oscar nominee Kate Hudson, Marianne Cotillard, Penelope Cruz, Mariah Carey, Bette Midler.
A small amount of marijuana-laced candies were found in the Florida woman's SUV during a search. She was taken to jail and charged with fleeing and eluding, reckless driving, DUI, resisting arrest, and possession of a controlled substance without a prescription. In It Wouldn't Fit in the Uber news, a Florida man has been charged with driving while intoxicated after he was caught riding a lawnmower in the middle of a Florida highway. The incident was recorded by the body camera of Marion County Sheriff's Office Deputy Richard Jench, who responded to the call on August 5th. The body cam footage showed Jench approaching the Florida man as he drove a lawnmower along Highway 316 in Fort McCoy, a community about 20 miles northeast of Ocala. The nearly 3-minute video, which the Marion County Sheriff's Office posted to its Facebook page, began with the officer asking the Florida man if he knew he was driving in the middle of the road. Jench then asked him how much he'd had to drink that night, to which the man replied, "A couple." When the officer asked the Florida man, who was seen struggling to stand up straight for a second time, if he wanted to complete the field sobriety test, he said, quote, "No, sir, just take me to jail," unquote. The sheriff's office identified the man and said he has 3 prior DUI convictions, has had his license suspended 3 times, and revoked 4 times for refusing to submit a breath sample, which likely explains his choice of vehicle for the evening. In This One Wouldn't Fit in the Uber Either news, it doesn't matter what you're driving, you can't drive drunk. A Florida man learned that the hard way on July 4th when Holmes Beach police found him allegedly driving drunk on his lawnmower. No, this is another one. Police say he darted out in front of their cruisers with no lights on his vehicle because it was a lawnmower. Quote, "My officers were leaving one call and all of a sudden across their path goes a grasshopper lawnmower. Midnight, no lights," unquote. Holmes Beach Police Department Chief William Tokager said, quote, "The gentleman went through the parking lot of Cross Point Church all over the road," unquote. Officers said the Florida man had a Mike's Hard Lemonade in his possession. The Florida man told officers he was retrieving his lawnmower from a neighbor's house. Quote, "He figured this would be his only option for driving, but he is on the road. He is driving a vehicle while intoxicated. This is a rather large lawnmower. It is dangerous," unquote, Chief Tokager said. Police say this was the Florida man's 6th DUI, but his first one on a lawnmower. The Florida man has past arrests for DUI in Florida, Michigan, and Illinois. Chief Tokager said the Florida man's license was revoked in 1986 and permanently taken in 1992. Tokager said, quote, "A little bit odd, but we are happy the officers got him stopped off the road, and obviously that will not stop him in the future." In plumbing pirate news, a Florida man who was apparently upset about being arrested repeatedly flushed the toilet in his cell until it flooded the area and then made a death threat toward the officer who took him into custody, according to the Melbourne Police Department. Police said a man flagged them down Wednesday on Longwood Boulevard to let them know that a man, later identified as 40-year-old John Adams, had just stolen his Schwinn bicycle from his garage. The police report did not indicate if this is the same John Adams as the second president of the United States, but since that one died 196 years ago, Florida Man News assumes he is not. The victim confronted Adams and got the $150 bike back, but he still wanted to press charges since he had surveillance video of the incident, and his family was home at the time. Police said they located Adams nearby and took him into custody. Once placed in a cell in the booking area, Adams became, quote, extremely irate, started banging on the cell doors, and then flushed the cell toilet repeatedly until the booking room flooded, according to the affidavit. As Adams was being taken to the Brevard County Jail, he berated the officer with racial and homophobic slurs. Records show that once the officer turned off his in-car camera as they arrived at the jail, Adams told him, quote, "You're going to be killed when this is over," unquote. Adams is facing charges of occupied burglary, grand theft, and threatening a law enforcement officer. In I Don't Wanna Iguana news, a Florida man riding his bicycle on Thursday suffered multiple injuries when he crashed into an iguana that sprang into his path. The Monroe County Sheriff's Office, located in the Florida Keys, posted pictures Friday on Facebook showing the aftermath of the man-on-reptile crash. They show the limp-looking lizard lodged between the bicycle's tire and its metal frame. According to deputies, a 62-year-old marathon man was riding his bike on a path near Crane Point Hammock around 10:45 a.m. Thursday when the scaly green creature darted out in front of him from the adjacent grassy area. The way the reptile became lodged in the wheel fork caused the tire to lock, which in turn sent the victim flying over the handlebars and onto the asphalt. He was transported to a hospital in stable condition to receive stitches on his head and treatment for scrapes to his arms and legs. Quote, "The condition of the iguana did not appear as stable," unquote, deputies wrote in the Post. Iguanas are an invasive species known to run rampant in South Florida. Wildlife officials say it's legal to kill them as long as it's done in a humane way. They did not say whether being wrapped around a bicycle wheel is considered humane, but since it was an accident, no charges were filed regardless. It's almost time for our final story, but first, Florida Man News is a production of the Florida Podcast Network. Our executive producer is Jemmy Legagneur. You can find the show in your favorite podcast app or at floridapodcastnetwork.com, on Instagram and Twitter at FLPodcastNet, and you can find me at Joel from Florida. That's at Joel from FL. You can join our Florida Podcast Network Facebook group. Just search for FPN Insiders to get more info on Florida Man News and all of our other shows like Podcasting Your Brand, where producer Jemmy opens her books on how to achieve all your goals from developing your show's topic and the technical side of a podcast launch through higher-level aspirations of audience growth and monetization. For comments or story suggestions, email me at joel@shadysidemedia.com. Florida Man News is provided for entertainment purposes only. Any similarity to actual persons living or dead or actual events is purely coincidental. No warranty or professional relationship is implied, and no refunds will be granted. Views expressed on this program are solely the opinions of the individuals who express them and do not imply an endorsement by our sponsors, spouses, families, employees, ourselves, or the Florida Board of Tourism. Thanks for listening to Florida Man News. Here's our final story. Potty training is tough for many toddlers, but one 2-year-old in Florida is having some unique challenges with it. Future Florida man Reuben Paul, not to be confused with Pee Wee Herman actor Paul Reubens, got his training toilet seat stuck around his neck. To add insult to injury, his young mom pulled out her cell phone and documented the embarrassing fiasco for her social media followers. Quote, "Reuben, can you tell me what happened?" she said in a now viral TikTok video. Reuben, like any self-respecting little dude, completely ignores her question and instead sings "You've Got a Friend in Me" from the film Toy Story. But he can only distract so long before he admits, "There's a toilet seat on my head." Dad got called to the scene, and after confirming the toilet seat was clean, oiled it up in an attempt to slip it off over the son's head. No such luck. That's when he went for the hacksaw. But Reuben made sure the story had a happy ending. The little man stayed very still as his father sawed away only inches away from his neck. We hope this situation taught the party pooper a lesson, but something tells us he has a lot more mischief in his future. One thing's for sure, he'll never put a toilet seat down again in his life. That's the news from the shady side of the Sunshine State. We'll be back next week with another heaping pile of Florida Man news. There's a toilet seat on my head.
Nicole Kidman, Oscar nominee Kate Hudson, Ariane Cotillard, Penelope Cruz, John Travolta, Mariah Carey, Mariah Carey, Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal, Beyonce, Avril Lavigne, Tom Cruise, Stephanie Meyer, Bette Midler, Julia Roberts, Jennifer Aniston, Matthew Perry, Courtney Cox, David Schwimmer, Lisa Kudrow, and Matt LeBlanc, Dakota Fanning, John Kennedy, Madonna, Bon Jovi, Donnie and Marie, Jay-Z, Ms. Barbara Streisand, Miley Cyrus,